Welcome back, FG fam, to another episode of the Northern Michigan Wildcats Dynasty on College Football Revamped. We sit at 1-5 overall and 1-1 in the MAC Conference, and we have a game against fellow 1-5 squad and in-state rival Eastern Michigan looming. But first, since we are exactly midway through the season, 6 games into a 12-game year, it is time to see what is going down on the recruiting trail. Obviously, we have dedicated a lot of resources into our home state of Michigan as well as our neighboring state, Ohio. Texas is our third and final pipeline, and we may look to earn another late in the season. You'll see how in a few minutes. Without further ado, let's get started. First, you'll notice we don't have any particular needs, but let's be realistic. This team needs everything. All jokes aside, though, I am happy with the way the offense has performed thus far, with the exception of the offensive line. You'll see most of our offensive efforts are going toward the O-line for sure. Let's get over and take a look at the recruiting board. We aren't going after any quarterbacks since Alejandro Klink II has performed kind of above expectations. We aren't currently looking for running backs either, despite the poor season from Baza Beatson, but we firmly believe that the O-line is to blame on that front. We aren't interested in fullbacks at the moment this season, maybe next year, but we are going after a bit of wideouts. The first being Eli Francis from River Rouge, Michigan. We are Eli's only scholarship offer, and we feel like he could be a real gem of a prospect. He has more speed in the hands than scouts give him credit for, and we're going to look to take advantage of that. Aaron Mcdaniel from Plymouth, Minnesota is another gem-type receiver and is oddly similar to Eli Francis in play style. We're the only school offering Mcdaniel as well, and even though he really wanted to be a Golden Gopher and stay home, we've made a strong push to take a lead. Hopefully we have enough in the tank to close him out. JUCO wide receiver Nick Pierce of Griffith, Indiana, isn't somebody we've really attempted to bring in, but he is super interested in coming to Northern Michigan anyway. Of course, he's a JUCO and doesn't possess the skills of the 2 wide receivers that we really want. He's a fallback option for now. Reggie Babcock is a newer addition to our board from White Settlement, Texas.
What?
We haven't scouted him or really made a strong push, but we are on his list of destinations despite that. Another solid fallback option here. We actually have 2 tight ends on the board, which is shocking considering the terrific play of Rigoberto Ramirez Jr. We aren't looking to replace him, but getting depth that is solid could never be bad, right? JUCO tight end Clint Long from Harper Woods, Michigan, could be the local boy we need as a backup next season. He's relatively quick with some decent hands and some good blocking. Very well-rounded tight end that would be great in 2 tight end sets with Ramirez. Then there's Justin Peoples from College Station, Texas, another pipeline guy who has a similar skill set to Long but doesn't possess much athleticism after the catch the way that Long does. What he does have going for him is that he's a true freshman, and if we could reel in both of these guys, redshirt Peoples, and have Rigo and Clint running tight end 1 and 2 next year, that'd be a pretty dangerous offense. But prospects don't look amazing at landing Peoples anyway, so we'll see what we can do. Now, let's move on to the big fishes in the offensive line. We have made a ton of progress here already, committing 2 tackles in Michael Turner out of John F. Kennedy High School in Taylor, Michigan, and Eric Vincent out of Saginaw High School. These 2 local guys are going to bolster our awful offensive line instantly. Turner is 6'7", 302, and is more of a run blocker with some amazing acceleration. Conversely, Vincent's only 6'3", 264, much more of a pass blocker with a bit more strength, oddly, despite his smaller frame. Both of these guys should help out instantly, and hopefully we can add to them. Now, the prospects of adding to these guys, going to be a little tough. We've got Paul Thompson and Justin Perry. They're both tackles that were recently added to the board from Florida, where we could try to get that pipeline next year if we can just bring in 3 more recruits, already having 3 on our team. Moving over to guard, we have Adam Patrick, and he'd be a big fish on the offensive line that we were really looking to get. He hails from Beverly Hills, Michigan, and we are in a really tight battle with Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, Michigan State, and then Duke of all places. Hopefully we can smack around EMU next week and make him reconsider his top choice. The other guard on our board hails from the capital of Wisconsin, and that's Casey Pope. He's a balanced blocker and a good fallback option if Patrick commits elsewhere. We'd be the only team to have offered Pope a scholarship at this point, if and when we do, so that'd be nice. Over to center, where we only have one on our board, and that is Ben Henry from Belleville, Illinois. He really wants to come to Marquette, and we haven't really done any real work with him yet. We do have a visit scheduled with him for week number 10, despite not offering him a scholarship yet. The good news? No one else has offered him one either, so no real pressure to do so thus far. So, obviously, offensively, the main focus is in the trenches. There's a lot of that going on the defensive side of the ball as well, as we have 5 defensive ends on our board. Tim Smith from Grosse Pointe South High School is one of the best players on our board, and he'd make an impact immediately. The thing is, he's visited us, but not Central Michigan, and it looks like he's going to wait until he does to make his final choice. Sucks, but it's okay, because we've already gotten J.J. Hartman from Columbia, Pennsylvania to commit to the Wildcats. Hartman's not the tackler that Smith is, but he's a way better block shedder, so not a bad consolation prize if that's all he ends up being. Josh Ingram is another prospect we really like. More of a run stopper, but another guy that we're in a deep fight with Central Michigan over, where we had him visit and they haven't. Dang Chippewas. The others are newly added. Leon Richardson from Florida, again trying to build up that pipeline, and JUCO Keon Frederick from Indiana. The road is long to bring those two guys in, so they would be tough fall guy options. We only went after one defensive tackle, and we landed him. Wes Porter of Euclid, Ohio is our man, and while he doesn't have any glaring weaknesses aside from his awful speed, agility, and acceleration combo, he doesn't have any great strengths either. His brute strength and block shedding hopefully will create some bull rush opportunities in the middle of everyone's offensive line. Linebackers, another strong focus in our recruiting trail this year. 7 outside linebackers are on the board right now, and we've already committed Brian Van from Shelby High School here in Michigan. I think the great thing about Van is he is more run stopping and coverage over rushing, and that's refreshing to see. We can definitely use the run stopping and tight end coverage that we've been missing all year long. Jeff Williams from Bedford Heights, Ohio, isn't quick, but is a very balanced player, which could make for a great all-around player if he gets a redshirt year. Charles Cabral is a new addition, again from Florida. Chad Harrison from Wisconsin is just fast. I mean, he's not good, but we do have a lead without offering him a scholarship, and we should probably do that before Purdue ends up beating us out. Isaac Wolf from Bowling Green, Ohio is another one we haven't really tried hard to recruit and still have a shot to bring in with Western Michigan holding a slight lead. Edmund Hunter from Fitchburg, Wisconsin is the same story, where we aren't heavily recruiting him, but we're in the lead in a big way over EMU on him. And then there's his cousin, Richard Hunter from Florida, who we recently added to the board because he heard his cousin was trying to be a Wildcat and he may want to follow suit, so we figured, why not start putting in a little bit of work on this kid? At middle linebacker, we have 2 targets. Lawrence Kemp of Highland Park, Michigan has just started to receive some love from us as we recently sent him a scholarship offer and started scouting his games. Kemp doesn't possess any terrific skills, but there's nothing really holding him back either. So hopefully that's a relationship that can bear some fruit for us. Our other option, if that fails, is Brian Lamb of Muskegon High School, also here in Michigan. Lamb does have weaknesses, however, he is not fast, he doesn't hit hard, and he doesn't seem to be the most instinctive or intuitive player. He's a good tackler with solid strength and a good rushing technique. And he doesn't really deter us, however, because it's going to be good to bring in different types of players with different skill sets. And unfortunately for us, the guys that we do bring in is going to kind of dictate how we're going to end up playing next year. One could argue that we should at least try to get some corners here, but alas, we're not really succeeding in that area. However, at free safety, we have Grosse Isle High School's finest, Brandon Williamson, who wants to go to Arizona State for some reason. He's fast with good tackling and mediocre coverage skills. We have a visit set up for week number 10, but ASU holds that slightly without even setting up a visit yet. And that could be a bit worrisome, as our backup option, Ken Anderson, who hails from Moorhead, Minnesota, is a new addition to our board, and that would require far more work to convince to make the trip to Marquette. We're actually going after 2 kickers. Now, we aren't wasting a ton of resources there, but we'd like to get someone in here. Jason Johnson goes to Detroit Catholic Central High School in Novi, Michigan, and is technically the best overall player on our recruiting board. He doesn't have the biggest leg, but it is sure accurate. He's never missed a high school field goal in his entire career. He hasn't commit yet, but he should really, really soon. Coincidentally, our backup option is another Johnson, Eddie Johnson, from Monroe, Michigan. No relation at all between these two, though. He's a considerably worse player with far worse legs, so we haven't even offered him a scholarship yet. We'd get him shortly if we decided to offer a scholarship, but we really are waiting on Jason Johnson's decision from Detroit Catholic Central High School. We'd way rather have him. Lastly, there are 3 athletes that we're trying to bring into the program. The first is Steve Redd from Shoreview, Minnesota. He's a 4-star prospect that isn't receiving a ton of attention from his dream schools, Notre Dame, Miami, Florida, and Nebraska. I think that's because he figures to be a Trent's player and really isn't one of the high 4-star, high-profile players you would look for. So he's flying a little bit under the radar, and honestly, we need trench players, so we'll take him. We will take him here in Marquette. Next, there is Paul Rivero from Menominee, Wisconsin. Now, Paul can do a lot, but his best spots seem to be either quarterback, where he's very inaccurate, running back, cornerback, and safety. So while we aren't recruiting any corners right now, we could get Rivero to slot in as one if we needed him to. But EMU's also trying to get him, as well as New Mexico State. So we need to act fast. Last, and maybe or maybe not least, is Phil Smith from Wakisha, Wisconsin. We are in the lead for Phil, but we haven't even scouted him at all. Seems to be more of a linebacker or edge rushing type of player, which doesn't deter us at all. We could always use more of those. As you can see, there was a ton of them on our board here. We'll have to do more work on him before we decide whether we should pursue him strongly or not. And that's the outlook for year 1's recruiting board. I'd like to know who your favorite recruit to be signed already is. You can let me know that in the comments section. Who should be our number 1 priority moving forward? Let me know that as well. Let's take a quick look over here at the top recruiting list, and you can see that we're pretty much near the bottom, but we're not Ohio State, who hasn't signed a single player yet. And you can see the top 10, a lot of the usual suspects. No real huge surprises outside of Troy making it up there. That's pretty good for them. Good for them, but hopefully we will get ourselves to climb up this list if we can bring in some more of these guys that are really considering Northern Michigan. We'd really like to close in on some of them. One thing I did want to get to in today's episode was a recap of things that have gone on so far. You can see Clemson, Oregon, Oklahoma, and UCF all undefeated at the top of the top 25 list. Arizona is undefeated, but apparently there are 4 teams with losses ahead of them, including Utah, who beat us in a very close game. Northwestern also having a very good season, undefeated at number 15. But in the case of Arizona, they're going to have a chance to prove their worth this week against Oregon. Other teams receiving votes, you can see, are a couple of teams who dropped out of the top 25. As a matter of fact, all 3 who dropped out are the ones receiving votes, so we'll see how that continues. Now let's take a brief look at every conference and how their outlook is going. It looks like Clemson and Syracuse are fighting for that top spot in the ACC Atlantic, while Miami and Virginia are having very good seasons in the coastal side of things. there is likely going to be a collision course between two of those four teams at the end of the year. The American, of course, will not have a conference championship, but UCF undefeated and so far 1-0 in conference. They haven't gotten a ton of conference games underway. Over in the Big 12, there's a few conference games played there. Oklahoma and Kansas State are going to have the leg up on the competition there. We'll see what happens when they play each other. Big 10, you can see that they have the East going strong with Michigan, Ohio State. What else would it be but come down to that at the end of the year, right? Likelihood. Over in the West, you have Northwestern really running away with it, but if they lose a game, watch out for Wisconsin or Purdue to jump into that race there. Iowa only has one conference loss as well. It was very recent. Conference USA, the East side of things, very, very jumbled up. This is obviously not one of the premier conferences, but there are many, many teams with a chance here. There's no opportunity to really even guess. UTEP 6-1 on their year, though. Good job for them. The Independents, really nothing much to really write home about here, as nobody's above 500. Into our conference, the MAC, it looks on the east side that Miami, Ohio might run away with that side of the conference. And over on our west side of the conference, Ball State, Toledo, and Northern Illinois are at 2-1. We did beat Toledo, so we've got an upper hand there. We're 1-1 in the conference. Maybe if we run the table, we might have a shot. Over at the Mountain West Conference, on the mountain side of things, 5-1 Air Force is 3-0 in conference. Wyoming, the only team really giving chase there on that side. And then in the western side, San Jose State with the upper leg there, but watch out for UNLV. They were another team that beat us this year. Pac-12 North, Oregon is in the lead there. Stanford's 4-1 in conference, though. You got to watch out if somebody's able to knock Oregon off, and you know Oregon loves losing games they're not supposed to. Maybe that'll be against Arizona in this upcoming week. Who knows? In the SEC East, it's Florida and Georgia, like it usually is, battling each other, both 5-1 in conference. And over in the west side of things, it's going to be LSU and Bama. Bama just lost a game to Arkansas in conference. Not one that they wanted to lose, but we'll see how LSU does. And then over in the Sun Belt, you got Georgia Southern at 4-1. They're just waiting for Louisiana to lose a game. Georgia Southern may be your champ there. A quick look at the Heisman race. Kendall Milton, the halfback from Georgia, is leading that race. Bam Knight, the senior running back of NC State, and the junior redshirt running back Naquan Wright over at Florida are the leading three in the clubhouse. Davis Price and Brennan Armstrong, the only quarterback on the list. However, he's injured for Virginia, so we'll see how that works out. And finally, for the midseason recap, I wanted to go over the remainder of our schedule and what has happened thus far. Obviously, that huge blowout on the road at the Big House. And then losing by a couple of scores to number 6 Utah on the road actually wasn't all that bad. We've had very, very close games after that, with our biggest loss by a total of 15, and we won a game by 4 against Toledo. That's still our only win of the year. The rest of the season is going to be all conference games, and we are playing our 3 most winnable games of the year coming up. 1-5 Eastern Michigan, Bowling Green, and Buffalo, who are both 1-6, but we will play 3 of our final 6 games on the road. How do you think we can do for the remainder of the season? If you'd like the chance to be added to our roster or the roster of a conference rival next season, drop a name, a skin tone, and a preferred position in the comments below, and we'll see what we can do. Positions are not going to be guaranteed, but the name and skin tone will be. Obviously, new channel members will get some priority, and then the old channel members who may already have players, but they're going to get another one because they're channel members and they're paying to support. And then longtime subs and so on and so forth. Regardless, I'll see if I can find a spot for everybody to get in next season. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Northern Michigan Dynasty, and next episode we're going to take on Eastern Michigan, which should be an interesting rivalry game as we are both coming in, as I said earlier, at 1-5. They've only beaten Northern Illinois, which is the team that we lost to, and we've only beaten Toledo, which is a team that they lost to. Corso is going with them, bitch. Hopefully we can prove him wrong. Links to my Discord and my Twitch channel are in the description below. Come on through if you want to hang with the community. I hope to see you there. And a quick shout out to all my channel members: Kaz Cray Gaming, Raider Bear Comics, Christian Horn, TNJ, Derek Vance, T-Clink24, and Rigoberto Ramirez. Love you, fam.
I feel you back so